Hello, good evening. Welcome. This is Hot Edition. We're live on news up at Desawe Kanda. Also live on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. I am Alfred Ocansey.
And I am Grace Hammoah Agyemang.
This evening here on Hot Edition, Speaker of Parliament, Right Honorable Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman declines the majority's request to recall the House. We'll tell you why.
Also tonight, the Minority Caucus claims Ghana could lose the international headquarters of WAEC to Nigeria over 73 million Ghana cedis indebtedness.
We'll tell you exactly what the position of the West African Examination Council is on this matter. And with just 10 days to the general elections here on the UO Election Command Center, the People's National Convention, PNC, declares its support for the NDC and directs its members to vote for the NDC flag bearer, John Dramani Mahama. This evening, we'll find out whether the PNC support could have any meaningful impact on who wins the crucial election on December 7. Remedial Election Command Center, 10 days to the D-Day, December 7, but some 5 days to the special voting day. And stay with us here across all media journal platforms, bring you everything you need to know across the 276 constituencies, over 40,900 polling stations across all 16 regions. Stay with us now. We'll settle for the summary of the news. The birthday girl, Safwa Boying, is here.
Alfred, thank you very much, and welcome to the news summary segment. Let's settle for the details now. To our first story, the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, has declined a request made to him by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomaking, to recall the House. The Speaker said that the House would resume sitting after the elections on December 7 to complete all essential matters before the seamless transition to the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. Also, the Electoral Commission says the 2024 general elections will go down in history as the best since the inception of the 4th Republic. Deputy Commissioner at the EC, Dr. Bosman Asari, at the 4th edition of Graphic National Development Series in Accra, reassured Ghanaians of the Commission's commitment to ensure a fair, transparent, and peaceful elections. Away from that, the Electoral Commission, on a similar stretch, the Electoral Commission is holding the last of meetings with journalists aimed at equipping them ahead of the crucial December elections. Media coverage of the December elections has come under some scrutiny following plans by the Electoral Commission to restrict coverage at constituency and regional coalition centers to credible media outlets. Away from that, some armed policemen and civilians on Wednesday morning, November 27, 2024, stormed the premises of Metro TV around Alisa Hotel, North Region Accra, to disrupt a live production. Host of the station's morning show, Randy Abbey, who announced the incident on air, indicated that the armed persons stormed the premises to injure some of the security personnel when they attempted stopping them from entering the studios. And on to our last story, current data reveals that only 1% of Ghanaian households can afford housing provided by formal sector developers. So the situation is further compounded by the complex and fragmented nature of the housing sector. The Ministry of Works and Housing has launched the revised version of Ghana's housing profile, originally developed in 2011, which seeks to solve some of these issues. And this brings us to the end of our news summary segment. And over to you, Alfred.
Thank you, Safwa Boying. And there's more news on 3news.com. And make some time at this 3news.com. The birthday continues, does it not? It does, right?
Yeah.
Super. Now, Grace, let's get into some more details, shall we? The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman, has declined a request made to him by the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyomaking, to recall the House. Now, the Speaker said the House would resume sitting after the December 7 elections to complete all essential matters before a seamless transition to the 9th Parliament of the 4th Republic of Ghana. The Speaker's statement follows a recent request made by the Majority Caucus for him to recall members over some emergency and outstanding government businesses. In a memo dated Friday, 22nd of November 2024, the Majority had called on the Speaker to exercise his discretionary powers pursuant to Standing Orders 57.3 and 58.4 to summon the House to sit for 2 days, that is Thursday the 28th, that's tomorrow, and Friday the 29th of November 2024, to consider about 22 items. Now, well, we'll get into the details of the Speaker's response shortly, but let me acknowledge the presence of Dr. Rashid Rahman, Executive of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Dr. Rashid Rahman, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, Alfred.
It's always great. Good to have you. But stay with me a bit, Dr. Shidraman, because we're going to get into exactly what the Speaker's response is to the majority's memo to have him recall Parliament. Dennis Baberi, what that is showing me. What is the Speaker saying, Dennis?
Well, so the Speaker says that he's unable to exercise the discretion referred to in the memo of the Majority Leader to exercise that discretion in their favor to recall Parliament on the said dates. The dates proposed originally were Thursday and Friday of this particular week. The Speaker gives his reasons as follows. That to think that Parliament is not just about plenary sittings, there are also other activities which are very important, especially when we are heading for an election. And members of Parliament, including the government itself, would have to present its manifesto to the people just so they head into the election. It is important that some time be made for such an activity to take place. The Speaker also makes reference to the list of activities that were presented in the request from the majority, which were christened as agent government business. He thinks that such businesses must be prioritized because the time allowed or the time that they have before the next Parliament may not allow for the execution of such businesses as listed in the request. So the Speaker simply says that the majority should prioritize the activities so that when they return after the election, they can look into those particular matters. In essence, the Speaker says that it's important for them to focus on the election now and allow government and the MPs themselves to engage with the constituents on whose mandate they are in Parliament, so that after the election, they can reconvene to finish up with what the government will prioritize and put before the House to consider.
And quite straightforward, is it not, Dr. Rashid Rahman? This is the position of the Speaker.
Yes, Alfred, this was to be expected, especially given the kind of events that have unfolded over the last month or so since this crisis broke out. You remember many times some of us have said that this problem is a political problem, and we were using the wrong tools, legal tools, to address a problem that needed the two sides to sit down and talk and come to some understanding. But, we saw a lot of name calling in the media space. We saw the judiciary get into the parliamentary space at the invitation of Parliament and so on. Then this is an outcome that, for me, it wasn't unexpected. It's something that I thought would happen, because you remember, I keep saying that at one point there was even the need for, the leaders of the three arms of government. Important for them to sit down and talk and have a conversation so that they get us out of this. The court gave directives. Now I believe, if I put myself in the shoes of the Speaker, I'm sure he is also saying, well, let me also use the powers that I have. So here we are, Alfred.
And so that negotiated compromise that you proposed, unfortunately, hasn't happened. It did not happen. And as we speak, it appears that that's deadlock as a result of who is even majority still holds. Because yesterday we received a letter from Alexa that's Dr. Kesla Tufor still referring to himself as the majority leader.
Yes, indeed. And Alfred, we haven't seen the end of it yet. So let me just tell you this. The Speaker's memo says that Parliament will reconvene once the elections are over. What we are going to see is that on every single business that comes before the House, we are going to see members, particularly from the NDC side, pulling out all kinds of obscure, maybe legal provisions that some of us have never heard before, to either kind of make a case or, to demonstrate that now we are in the realm of legalities, and we use all the legal kind of tools that are at our disposal, either to slow down government business or to make sure that all the proper scrutiny that is needed is done. Because in the past, we've seen instances where they've reached compromises in order to let the business of government flow. I am not too sure whether we are going to see more of that, going forward. As you saw yesterday, the letter from Dr. Forsen, I think, made reference to a number of legal provisions in the Constitution, even if the other side has, disputed the relevance of those provisions. But, those are the signs of things to come, Alfred.
So even though, yes, after December 7, the Speaker says, I would heed to that call for this to be reconvened, we are also seeing right now that there's going to be another issue, is it not?
Yeah, there's going to be. And also, much would also depend on which side, emerges as the majority group in the ninth Parliament. Because by the time the Parliament will be recalled after the elections. Either the MPP is lame duck. In that case, we know that they are on their way out, or the NDC is bruised in such a way that maybe they might not, want to cooperate as needed, because they would have been bruised from the election, and then still kind of reeling and recovering from the shock of the Supreme Court ruling. So all to say, I think, Alfred, it's going to be a very interesting space to watch in the coming weeks.
Stay with me, Dr. Shidraman, because I have the Honorable Kofi Adams as Member of Parliament for the Boem constituency. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Adams. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Alfred, and good evening to your listeners.
It appears that the Speaker is almost just singing the same tune as you have been over the period, is it not? That if you're going to attend to the business of the House, it would be only after the elections. The Speaker seems to agree with you on that, per the statement we're receiving from him right now.
Well, clearly, because that is the most sensible thing to do in the circumstances that we find ourselves. It was so unreasonable for the leader of government business, the minority leader, to seek to invite Mr. Speaker to use his discretionary powers to invite Parliament to sit on the 28th and 29th of this month, knowing too well that the general elections is scheduled for 7th December, which is the next week, Saturday. And so it was clearly untenable to make such a proposition. It tells you that we have a political party that is in power that do not know even what to do. When we've had all the time for you to bring all these so-called businesses that you never brought, you never found time to bring. Now, a few days to elections, you thought you could get Mr. Speaker to summon Parliament to sit on very numerous and flimsy things that we don't see how urgent they are. So clearly, Mr. Speaker is right. Mr. Speaker is one of the most experienced persons. He's been in that Parliament from 1993 till now that he's risen to the very topmost position of the Parliament House as a Speaker. So he's not someone who has just come in. So I was so sure that Mr. Speaker will do the right thing, and he's done it, and we are grateful for his accepting our prayers.
But if you look at the memo written by Alexander Agyemang seeking to have the Speaker recall Parliament for you to consider sitting tomorrow and Friday, he listed a number of what has been described as urgent government business, $250 million that facility for the support that government intended to give to the affected financial institutions under this program, and then also some tax waivers for the tax exemptions for the 1D1F companies, almost $350 million, and then also a number of bills that were listed as well, together with some two Supreme Court nominees that you have vetted but yet to be approved by the plenary. All these are not urgent enough?
I don't think they are urgent. The Supreme Court nominees, the Supreme Court is still sitting and doing business to the extent that he, even Agyemang, the minority leader and leader of government business, went to the Supreme Court and got a hearing speedily. So if the Supreme Court was stressed, I don't think that they would have gotten the time to be able to hear his case with the kind of speed that they did. So I don't think that that is so necessary and so urgent that it cannot wait to come after 7th December when we would have finished with the elections. On the issue of the tax exemptions, look, the Parliament of this country have thought it necessary that a bill be worked on as far as exemptions issues is concerned, so that it doesn't operate on anyhow basis. And clearly, I would have thought that government will wait to approach tax exemptions in relation to the law that we have worked on as a body. I don't see why they continue to push to get all these manner of exemptions at the time we are inching towards an election. Who says that we cannot work on this, even if they are necessary after elections? And as for whatever loan agreement, we will still work on the loans. Parliament is not coming to an end before 7th December. Parliament will come to an end midnight 6th January. So we still have time after the general elections to meet and conduct business. For me, the only urgent business we have to do is that appropriation for the 2024 will end on the 31st December. And so we need to work on something for the first quarter. That we will surely will do. But many of the things that have been listed, I don't see how urgent they are. That for which reason even anybody would have thought that Parliament should be recalled when we have an election ahead of us.
Well, Andy Apiakubi, the Member of Parliament for the Santiago Chim North constituency, your colleague in Parliament, says that the Speaker has no business, as it were, deciding on his whims and caprices to not call or recall Parliament because he's constitutionally bound to do so.
No.
Upon this trigger by the memo that the Alexander Agyemang sent.
And the Apiakubi, hello?
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah, and the Apiakubi is wrong. There are different scenarios and different propositions. In our standing orders, if you come under Order 53 and Constitutional Provision 112, with 15% of members signing onto, that is where the Speaker has no discretion. In that case, the Speaker has within 7 days after receiving the petition to decide within the next 7 days when Parliament must be recalled. On this occasion, the leader of government business and the minority leader, Honorable Alexander Agyemang, was requesting the Speaker to come under Standing Order 57 and 58 to use his discretion. In that case, it can be done within a day, 2 or 3. So he was calling on Mr. Speaker to use his discretion. He is not coming under Order 53. That would not give the Speaker a discretion, as was done in the past. So in this case, he did not get the 15% signatories to be able to compel Mr. Speaker to act within 7 and the next 7 days. But he was bringing a plea before Mr. Speaker for Mr. Speaker to use his discretion. And Mr. Speaker also came under Constitutional Provision 296, which states that any officer that is given the right to exercise discretion must do so in fairness. And Mr. Speaker, considering the time we find ourselves, considering the fact that he himself had participated in 7 general elections, knows that this is not the time to recall members of Parliament who are accounting to the electorate for them to either be re-elected or be denied the opportunity to represent their constituents. You don't recall them at this time. So Andy Apiakubi is completely wrong. Mr. Speaker was being called upon to use his discretion, and he acted in combination with Constitutional Provision Article 296, that in exercising that discretion, you must be fair, you must not be arbitrary, you must not do it based on dislike or disfavor for anybody. And I think that Mr. Speaker on this occasion has been fair. Indeed, if members of the MPP caucus in Parliament so desire for us to be called, they would have gotten at least 15% of persons signing up to it. So even if their leader could not garner 15% signatories, it should tell you that even the MPP side of the House was not in favor of us being recalled.
We'll see how the commentators will look like, but clearly the Speaker has spoken. Thank you so much, Honorable Kofi Adams, for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. That also, Dr. Ashidaman, thank you so much for appreciate you for your contribution on this matter.
Thank you.
Great. Dr. Ashidaman, Executive Director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Also, the Honorable Kofi Adams is Member of Parliament for the Boem constituency on the ticket of the NDC. Then he makes reference to Article 296, exercise of discretionary powers. The Speaker also makes reference to that in the statement you have.
Well, so the Speaker makes reference to Standing Order 57, under which the Agyemang came under. That particular provision allows the Speaker to exercise discretion. The argument has been made that anytime there's a call for an emergency, the Speaker has no discretion over that. But there's a distinction between the two orders. You recall that the first instance that the Majority Leader then made a request for a recall of Parliament, he came under Article 122 of the Constitution, and as well as Order 53 of their standing orders. In that instance, the Speaker is bound within 7 days to take a decision on that. In this particular instance, he went on a different tangent altogether, which solely was on the discretion of the Speaker. So the Speaker had to exercise discretion on this matter. That's how come we are here.
And in exercising the discretionary power,
he did not exercise
it does not have to be unfair to
exactly. That's what the parties. Honorable
Kofi Adams is talking about.
Reference to Article 296. And of course, it's instructed to also point out that when you look at the memo that was sent by he says Majority Leader in government of the Leader of Government Business. In the Speaker's response, he takes out the Majority Leader and puts Agyemang, Leader of Government Business. That sent a signal that the matter as to who is majority or minority in the mind of the Speaker is not
settled as yet. Yeah. Well, so after December 7, we will still have to deal with that matter. Grace, is it not?
Yes, Alfred. And thank you. It comes back to other comments that these experts have made that the issue, though the Supreme Court has settled, is not really settled. And Indeed. Here we are seeing this back and forth, especially when the Speaker also has the power to exercise discretionary powers. It is at my discretion. I will call or I will not call. And then he also has some legal backing with their standing orders and all of that to exercise which discretionary power he wants to exercise. And so he says after election is 10 days away, 2 days for declaration and all. But in the next 15 days, we'll know whether Parliament will be recalled or not.
Certainly. The coming days will be interesting.
Very, Alfred.
Now, we're going to go into matters of education because of what's happening with WAEC. But, Grace, here on your Election Command Center, let's go into the issues of PNC. Let's stick with that because they have declared their support for the NDC?
Yes, Alfred.
Tell me about it.
Yes, the People's National Convention has declared a total support for the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, John Dramani Mahama. The National Executive Committee, NEC, we took the decision after a crunch meeting this afternoon at the party's headquarters, further directed all of its members to vote for the NDC in the December 7 polls. This is coming 2 months after the PNC flag bearer, Bernard Mona, was disqualified from contesting in the presidential elections. According to the EC, Bernard Mona had incomplete particulars of supporters. He also used registered and unregistered voters in a particular district to support his nomination in other districts. His form also contained varying signatures of some supporters and in some cases the same signatures for different supporters. He was therefore disqualified. The Supreme Court last Friday further dashed the hopes of the party by dismissing his application, challenging his disqualification by the EC. Here is National Chairman of the party, Samson Awingobit, addressing the media.
That the 2024 general election, the People's National Convention presidential candidate was disqualified. We fought our way to the High Court. We've lost the case. We went ahead to the Supreme Court. We've lost the case. 9 days to the general election, the PNC not having a presidential candidate cannot sit neutral. For that matter, as a national chairman, in consultation with the leader, we've invited NEC. That is our regional representative made up of the chairman and their general and their regional secretaries, including the FEC members. FEC here means Functional Executive Committee, made up of the national chairman, and my first vice was here. You get step out. Second vice, third vice. The presidential candidate, his running mate, the women's organizer, the deputy women's organizer, the general secretary, the deputy general secretary, the national organizer, the deputy national organizer, the youth organizer, and the deputy youth organizer. Then our communication officer, Richard. We are all present here today. Out of 14 regionals represented today meeting, out of 16, we had 15 regional representatives representing the NEC meeting today. At the end of deliberation, we discussed and we collectively, majority, have declared that the PNC, the People National Convention, will throw our support to the National Democratic Congress presidential candidate for the 2024 general election.
So that's the national chairman of the PNC, Samson Asaki Awingobit. Then a flag bearer of the PNC, who never made it to the ballot paper, Bernard Mona Grace, is saying that the governing NPP's poor performance informed their decision as a party to throw their weight behind the NDC going into this election.
Not a political party, even though the EC chairpersons and commissioners are appointed by a president and by extension a political party. We maintain the neutrality of the Electoral Commission. We think the Electoral Commission took the worst decision ever in the annals of Ghana's political history by disqualifying the PNC and its presidential candidate from participating in the 2024 elections. Secondly, throughout this process of turmoil that I personally went through and the PNC went through, you are very much aware that only one presidential candidate made a formal, or let me call it a public, pronouncement that our disqualification was not right. Because anybody that wants the maturation of democracy would have known that the PNC was headed by a former president of the Republic of Ghana. And that respect alone should not have led to the disqualification of the PNC. And it was the NDC's John Dramani Mahama that made that call that they should reinstate us on the ballot. Unfortunately, it fell on deaf ears. If you were here at the start of the meeting, you will note that NEC members took the decision not influenced by any material consideration. NEC members took the decision in the interest of saving our nation from further plunder by the current government. They also took the decision knowing very well that if the MPP in particular was doing well, the PNC would not have been filing a presidential candidate to contest the MPP to win presidential elections.
So that was flag bearer of the PNC, Bernard Mona. Let's go to the phone and speak to Professor Jonathan Asante Ochre, who is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Political Science Department and also a political analyst. Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre. Doc, thank you for talking to us.
You're welcome.
Great. So, Doc, we've seen political alliances in the past, PNC giving its support to the NDC and John Mahama. Does this really mean anything beyond its symbolism?
Well, I think that it goes beyond mere symbolism. I thought that long time ago when they declined Mr. Bernard Mona the opportunity to be, on the ticket of the PNC as a flag bearer, I look forward to a situation where they will have to align themselves with any of the two main political parties to join forces. Under normal circumstances, they could have decided to join, the CPC because they come from a particular, stock in terms of strategy. But you go into this contest with a view that you want to beat the MPP, and you have not been given the opportunity to do so. So then, if you join the CPP, you know very well that CPP is not likely to win the election. Then, of what use or benefit or that symbolism or that symbolic gesture be to your advantage or otherwise? Because we need to understand that all other contestants, apart from the NPP, want to kick out the NPP. So if your
your flag bearer or your presidential candidate does not have the opportunity to be on the ballot box, then you will have logically join the force that has the potential to oust the ruling government. And I think that is something that is, for me, I saw it coming. The other one that I feel is taking too long is CPP. CPP was also denied, and Dr. Papakusindum, the pronouncement that he's making in the public domain, you've gone to Mr. Mahama, and I don't know why he's playing it safe in that manner. The ruling government has proven to you, without mentioning words, that they don't seem to like you, they don't want to have anything to do. They know what they have done to your businesses. This is politics, and I think that the hedging will not really help him in any way. Unless maybe he's not at the leadership of the party. But whatever be the case, if he should tell the leadership that they should do it this way, obviously that is what they are going to do. So I have been expectant of DCPP, than PNC. But PNC has taken the lead, and I expect PPP to take.
Doc, so that then gives me the impression that it looks like this is not the first alliance we are going to see. You are expecting more in the coming days, or more should have even happened before now?
Yeah, certainly. Because CPP, don't forget, CPP used to be a third force. In the particular year that they contested elections, they were virtually the third force. They came third. And so if you look at the thousands and the hundreds of thousands of workers that were employed by the companies and businesses, I mean, if you look at their family line and what has happened to them in terms of all these, employees, and if you pick up the sentiment of these people, that, look, if you really feel that your job, you want to have a way of getting your jobs back, this is the way we should go, I think that they will see the need. Don't forget that there are people who have their investment locked up to Gold Coast Street and others. That has not seen the light of day. And there isn't any kind of, any kind of hurry on the part of the ruling government to ensure that things of that nature are solved. So what do? You need to ask for change. Logically, it makes a lot of sense than anything else. And that change, you will have to believe that this is the only group that can do so. Therefore, I'm throwing my weight behind them. And I think that is the best way.
And these, if you look at the electoral figures over the years, these are parties that have consistently failed to make numbers at the polls. In fact, some of them do not even go beyond 1% of the total votes, or some don't even make 1%. How significant will their support or numbers be to the NDC or any of the other parties that the others might want to throw their support for?
Yeah, politics is about numbers. What you're saying is true. What I see happening, for example, is that the PNC that is quite strong in Sisala area, where the late Agyemang came from. If they don't file any MP there, then it means that by this decision, they will want to vote massively for the NDC parliamentary candidate there and then the presidential candidate. You will have some who wouldn't want to associate themselves, but that will be in a minority. Yes, in terms of huge numbers, they don't have it. Politics is about numbers, and you don't take any insignificant number as insignificant. No matter what be the case, presidential elections just as one. And so you just not in any way treat that thing. It is said that the one who gives you little when he has little, the same person who will give you more when he has more. So in as much as they don't have significant figures, I think that as insignificant as they just see or the numbers, one way or the other, presidential, it could be significant. Don't also forget that in Parliament, somebody can beat you with just one vote. Mr. What's the name? The current Mr. Akrofi minister beat his opponent by 3 points or so, or 3 points. That is it. So we just do not in any way take those for granted. The other thing that I was telling you about, with respect to the teachers, for example, those who have had problems with the government, have had problems with them, their families, and they know how they have been struggling over the period since those things happen to them. And it is just a matter of ripping up the thing. If they don't see the need to come, I think that the NDC must themselves go to them and have some kind of background negotiation, not in public, so that they will feel comfortable. I think that some time ago I saw in the news outlet, is it 40,000 PPP defect to the NDC? I don't know how true that was, but some few months back, something like that what happened. And so if that is the case, Dr. Papa Kosindu himself has gone to them. I want to meet with him, put his grievances before him. What that means, he also called on the president, but he was declined. So what that means is that this is a person who is likely to listen to you. So what stops me from asking my people, if he thinks that he's a businessman, or which reason he will not stick his neck out, or he thinks that by doing so he would have stabbed President Kufuor in the back, I think that President Kufuor is sitting there, he's still thinking of MPP winning the elections through Dr. Bawumia. As bad as the system has become, he's still suggesting that MPP should win through Dr. Bawumia. So it seems that he cares less about him. I think that the onus lies on Dr. Kosindu to equally do same and take the leadership of the PNC and ensure that they galvanize their people in some kind of alliance with the NDC. If indeed they want the NDC out.
All right.
I think that is a decision they should not delay on.
Doc, thank you for talking to us. Dr. Jonathan Asante-Osiri, Senior Lecturer at the University of Cape Coast Political Science Department and a political analyst. Thank you for your time, Doc. Well, when you say PPP, they respond, yes, sir. So maybe this time it's a call on them to sorry and then do what?
and do the needful.
Yeah.
See, and look, with some 10 days to election day, December 7, and talk about PPP, they have parliamentary candidates as well. Even though they're presidential candidate, they don't make it to the ballot paper. And the same with the PNC. They have almost 28 parliamentary candidates spread across the country going into this election, even though they don't have their presidential candidate on the presidential ballot paper. So we'll see how the coming days will look like here on the Your Election Command Center, and away from politics and elections. We'll come back to it on campaign trail on Your Election Command Center. But the NDC caucus in Parliament says Ghana could lose the international headquarters of the West African Examination Council, WAEC, to Nigeria over some 73 million Ghana cedis indebtedness owed by government. Now, the NDC, in a statement, expressed concern over government's lack of direction leading to this problem. Grace, you have excerpts of this particular statement from Peter Notukotoe, who is the ranking on the Education Committee of this 8th Parliament, specifically detailing why this fear. What is he talking about?
So, Alfred, the statement makes the point that the West African Examination Council is a non-profit organization, and so it solely depends on subventions and subscriptions and dues from member countries, and so any form of delay when it comes to these three areas is likely to affect the operation of the council. Now, the council has been conducting examinations for Ghana and some West African countries, and Ghana has been the traditional headquarters of the council for the past 72 years, but is likely to lose this to Nigeria in the coming days if we don't pay our debt of 73 million Ghana cedis. In fact, the sources we have from the release indicate that Nigeria is already putting up a magnificent building to host the headquarters, because in their minds and in their thinking, Ghana will not be able to settle its 73 million cedis debt in the nearest time. And so Nigeria is already putting up a building to host the headquarters.
I see.
Of WAEC, yes, from the sources we have and also from this release by Notukotoe.
But WAEC moved into a new building not too long ago.
Not too long ago, Alfred.
Yes, the new headquarters. I went there sometime 2 months ago. But let's get some detail on this.
Yes,
Grace.
Alfred. So it goes ahead to say that there are fears because of this Ghana's inability to settle these debts. There are fears that the WAEC is targeting to release BC results on December 17, and this is likely to be affected
because of the indebtedness.
Exactly. We already know that WAEC, even before now, has been talking about government indebtedness to them, how it is going to affect the marking of WASI papers, how it's going to affect the conduct of the BC, but government paid some, and so they were able to conduct the exam. Now it's left with marking and release of the result, and this is likely to be affected. Nochukuto also makes the point that apart from these administrative issues, there's also the issue of obsolete and breakdown of equipment.
Right.
And so they are just hanging there in the balance, working with machines that do not work to expectation. And so if government doesn't quickly step in and pay this debt so that BC results are released, we're not going to have the results released by December 17. Even WASI is also going to be affected, and then we're also going to lose the headquarters of WAEC.
Pretty precarious situation there.
It is, Alfred.
John Kapi speaks for the West African Examination Council. He's joining us on the telephone. In fact, Grace, he's been listening to you talk about their problems. But Mr. Kapi, good evening.
Good evening.
First off, let me start with you. Your machines that you work with at WAEC, are they up to date, state of the art, or obsolete, as the Honorable Peter Nochukuto is also talking about in this statement?
Thank you, and good evening to your listeners. We have machines that we use. We update them regularly, but in the past few years, we've not been able to do so. So, as we speak, the ones that we use for scanning the objective answer cards have broken down, thereby stalling work on that aspect of the examination. So, when you say obsolete, probably the meaning that they may be out of date or something. They are in operation, just that they've broken down and they need to be fixed.
The machines are broken down?
Yes, they have.
How long ago is this?
Well, we noticed, when we did the BEC, we had to work twice as much as we would have done. So I think we overran some of them. And so in the past 3 weeks, we've had them, intermittently breaking down. And some of them are in a state that we cannot even use at all anymore unless we bring in the technicians to take a look at it and see whether they can be fixed or whether they will have to be replaced.
So that directly means that it's impacted on the marking of the objectives papers?
Absolutely, that is true.
Then effectively that would lead to a delay in the release of the results?
As we speak, I'm afraid we may miss the set date for the release of the WAS results, yes.
That's December 17. It's not going to happen?
It's not going to happen. We will need some more time because we will need to have them fix these machines and they will go ahead and scan the objective test because they form a component of the complete paper in order that we can do appropriate grading of the candidates.
But how this news for Ghana possibly losing the headquarters status of WAEC to Nigeria because of this level of indebtedness by government to WAEC?
Well, yeah, it is true that there is some amount of indebtedness to the council by the government. So let me just explain this. When we talk about the WAEC and the way we operate, we have the headquarters office and then we have the Ghana office. Now, the headquarters office takes care of all the 5 member countries, and then the Ghana office just operates for Ghana only. Now, the headquarters operates on a budget that is, taken care of by the 5 member countries. Now, as we speak, the government of Ghana owes the headquarters office about 73 million Ghana cedis, and this they've been following up for so many months now, I guess. But according to the Director of Finance headquarters, there has not been any payment made to them. So that debt is there. But then the issue of whether or not we are losing the headquarters status has not been discussed. In fact, it hasn't come up for discussion at all. So probably the thought is that if this state of affairs continues, the likelihood is that we would lose that status. But then that will also depend on if indeed people want to go into the act establishing WAEC and establishing Accra as the headquarters of the WAEC.
I mean, so the man who issued the statement, which my colleague Grace Summers Agyemang just read, that story and the details of it, is on the line right now because we want to get some details on this. The Honorable Peter Kotoy is the ranking on the Education Committee of the State Parliament. So, Mr. Gabi, don't go as yet. Hold on a bit for me. Honorable, good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, and how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. It's good to have you. So we have just read the statement, and you're suggesting in part, in fact, a number of things that you detailed there, Peter, John Kapi has just confirmed it, that indeed the case that they are working with machines that are broken down, some of them beyond repair, and as a result, the announced date of the release of the results for BEC, that's December 19, yeah. That date will be missed because of these difficulties. Now, but on the matter of Ghana losing the WAEC headquarters status, where did you get that from? Because it says that has not come up as yet.
Yeah, thank you very much, Albert. I hope I've got your name correct.
It's Alfred. Yes, Alfred.
Alfred, yes. Yeah, you see, we have been working with the Ministry of Education as a committee for a very long time now. And the non-payment of subscriptions, dues, and whatever has been a very big challenge for WAEC. So they are unable to meet their targets at the right time. We had to speak recently before money was released for the conduct and then the release of the BEC. What is being done now is the processes towards the release of the WASE, which is targeted to be released by 19th December. Now, if that money is not released for WAEC to carry out its mandate, it's going to affect our young ones who completed secondary schools and hoping to enter into tertiary institutions next year. Yeah, but for the case of moving the headquarters of WAEC from Ghana to Nigeria has been an issue for some time now because of the inability of government to meet obligations. If you host an international organization, you should be the first to meet your financial obligations. Then you can have the moral right to tell other countries that you have, or member countries, you are delaying in paying your subscriptions. But if you are the host country and you fail in your obligation to the international organization, people who are members or countries who are members will be agitating that Ghana is not performing very well. So they should move the headquarters to another place. We have sources from which we get this information, except that I cannot put it on air. So please, it is an agitation from member countries that are saying, no, let's make sure that if Ghana is unable to meet their obligations, why don't we move the headquarters to another place? And I can tell you, Nigeria is ready to host the headquarters of the organization.
So the risk of we losing the headquarters status is purely as a result of government indebtedness to WAEC?
Exactly. That is the main cause. Yeah.
And since you're on the Education Committee, ranking member for that matter, any updates on the WAEC efforts to have government pay them the debts they owe?
Actually, the Committee on Education, we have on several occasions spoken with the Ministry of Education that pay WAEC, make it a priority. Why is it that they should be crying for money before you give them in pieces or bits? See, in other countries, they release money quarterly or at the beginning of the year so that they can have time, can get the resources to conduct the various examinations. So we as a committee, we have done our best. And WAEC knows that we are doing our best for them. So that, in fact, money is released on time. If you don't release money to them, how do they buy materials for the examination? How do people mark the examinations on credit? It doesn't sound well, you see. So they are losing seasoned and experienced examiners. It is not only conducting examination and marking. No, there are other processes that they go through. And if you don't have the equipment that is needed, you will not be able to perform well.
So for me, as a committee, we have done our best. We have done enough for WAEC to get what is due them, but government is not meeting its obligations. And since some time ago, they received directly or releases directly from the Ministry of Finance. And since 2021, when they moved that releases from Ministry of Finance to Ministry of Education, that started this problem. And I think we should revert to the former, where Ministry of Finance will release money directly to the ministry, to WAEC, so that they can have money regularly and run their activities.
Honorable, appreciate your time on this. Thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts. But Mr. Kapi, while we are at it, your problems still persist. And what was the last payment that government made to you?
The last payment that was made was about 3 weeks ago, and that was about 15 million Ghana cedis. And so that still leaves us with about 150 million cedis for them to, settle.
That's 150 million.
Yes.
That's the debts government owes you.
Yes.
But you earlier mentioned 73 million cedis. Let's reconcile that. What does that mean?
So I when I mentioned 73, I was trying to draw a difference between the headquarters and then the Ghana office of WAEC. Now, so the 73 million is what is owed the headquarters. But when it comes to the Ghana office of WAEC, they owe us about 150 million Ghana cedis.
Wow. So that's a total of what? Over 230 million cedis? Is that right?
Thereabouts. Unfortunately, I've not done the addition myself.
So if you're adding 150 million cedis, that's separate debt owed to the Ghana office of WAEC.
Yeah.
And that's separate from the 73 million cedis owed to the headquarters of WAEC. So
yes, that's correct.
If we're adding the debt that government owes the Ghana office of WAEC, and then to the debt that government owes the West African office of WAEC, that's over 230 million. It's about 230 million thereabout. cedis.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, about 220 point something. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And you still have no idea as to when the next payment is coming?
No, we have no idea because there's no timetable for payment. We keep writing letters. As we speak, even this morning, another letter was issued because of the issue with the scanning machines, just so that they realize or they see the urgency with which they should release funds, so that we'll be able to carry out our job.
So, Kapi, I can only wish you well on this. But the unfortunate thing is that, Grace, it's our brothers and sisters who are going to be impacted.
Who are in anticipation, waiting for their BC results. Yes, to progress to senior secondary school. Mm-hmm. And even for those who wrote WASI to also go to the tertiary institutions.
All of that's going to be affected.
Yeah.
Well, for the BC candidates, we've released virtually all the results. So they've been able to do it. It's a WAS that is pending. Mm-hmm. Those who are going to the tertiary institutions, yeah. So
is the WASI results that you say the date for release will be missed? That is the December 19th.
Yeah, that's the one that will be missed. Yeah, because we've not been able to, carry out the processes.
So, Kapi, thank you so much.
A pleasure.
John Kapi speaks for the West African Examinations Council as head of public affairs there. Grace, sad one.
Very sad, Alfred.
Indeed.
I can imagine when I wrote my WASI and I was in anticipation of my results coming. Exactly. And then you hear that it's not going to be released on around the time that you're expecting it to be released. It's some way.
It's good omen, by the way, if you look at it somehow.
Really, Alfred?
If it comes before Christmas.
Well, yeah, you could.
It comes after Christmas.
Well, yes.
Some people's Christmas will be dependent
on the results they bring home. I get that. I get that.
All things work together for good.
For good.
So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Stay with us. We're back with the business news. Grace Agyemang will give us the details after the quick break. Stay with us.
Today, we thank you very much for your invaluable service to this great company, and we wish you well on your retirement. Cheers.
Thank you.
happy retirement, Lay.
Thank you very much.
So are you staying or you are going back to Ghana?
I'm going back home, of course.
Wow. You really built?
I've got a home at Lakeside Estate.
Really?
Lakeside Hills is a dream come true, a community designed for all stages of life. Whether you're a growing family needing more space, a young professional looking for convenience, or someone seeking a peaceful retirement, Lakeside Hills has it all. With 2, 3, and 4 bedroom homes, there's something for everyone.
That's impressive. Exactly what I'm looking for. I have to start saving towards this.
See you back home.
Lakeside Hills, it's not just a place to live, it's a place to thrive.
The most comprehensive election coverage.
Top-notch presenters and well-versed analysts.
Dedicated reporters and correspondents in every nook and cranny across the country.
All the action, every incident reported. All the big stories covered.
All facts cross-checked. Every figure verified.
Every vote monitored and accounted for.
The numbers tallied, analyzed, and interpreted.
We have invested time and energy in order to bring you a comprehensive elections coverage.
The whole world will be watching us on TV, online, and radio.
Election Command Center. Facts, analysis, results.
This is still Horse Edition on 3FM 92.7. Time now for business. My name is Grace Hammoah Agyemang. The total value of secured loans granted by banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions in the third quarter of 2024 rose to 5.6 billion cedis, marking a 2.8% year-on-year increase. However, a significant shift in contributions was noted as SDIs expanded their share while banks recorded a decline. The following 3 Business News Desk report has more.
The total value of secured loans granted by banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions, SDIs, increased to 5.6 billion cedis in the third quarter of 2024, up from 5.5 billion cedis during the same period in 2023. This represents a 2.8% year-on-year growth, according to the Quarter 3 Collateral Registry Brief. Banks accounted for 3.5 billion cedis of the total loans, a decline of 18.7% from 4.3 billion cedis last year. In contrast, SDIs recorded a significant increase, granting 2.1 billion cedis in secured loans, up by 75% from 1.2 billion cedis in Quarter 3 2023. Despite this shift, banks maintained the largest share of secured loans at 62.3%, although this was down from 78.8% last year. Savings and loans companies followed with 23.4%, while rural community banks accounted for 10.2%. The contributions of microfinance institutions, finance houses, and other lenders also shifted marginally. The data highlights a growing reliance on non-bank institutions for secured loans in Ghana.
That was a 3 Business News Desk report. They're still with the banking sector. President of the Ghana Association of Banks, Kofi Adumaku, says the country's strides in enhancing soundness of the banking sector have positioned the country to assume a leadership role in Africa's financial services industry. According to him, the country is positioned to attract significant foreign investment due to improved macroeconomic conditions.
The consistent progress we have made in enhancing the soundness of the banking sector provides a strong foundation for Ghana to assume a stronger leadership role in the financial services industry across the continent. It positions our nation as a role model in areas such as regulation, governance, stakeholder engagement, innovation, and financial inclusion, among others. There is no doubt that with the numerous achievements as a country, notably political stability, peace, and improving macroeconomic conditions, Ghana is well positioned to become a center of excellence in the sub-region, attracting increased investments from domestic and international investors. The rapidly evolving banking landscape has placed greater demands on regulators to respond effectively and meet the heightened expectations of the public and other economic actors.
President of the Ghana Association of Banks, Kofi Adumaco, there. To other stories, the Minerals Income Investment Fund, MIIF, has revealed that delays in ratifying Ghana's critical lithium asset in the central region are linked to ongoing parliamentary gridlock over vacant seats. Chief Executive Edward Cranting warns that legislative hold-up could jeopardize the country's efforts to capitalize on the booming global demand for lithium, a key mineral for renewable energy technologies. He also raised concerns over the delay's impact on job creation in the region.
We are working on the local asset, which is the OAR project. We have some few bits that we need to complete before we invest in that. We're looking at investing about $27.9 million in the local asset in the central region. That disbursement is subject to ratification of the lease by Parliament. Unfortunately, this has not happened yet because of going on in Parliament, which is delaying the project, unfortunately. And could have an impact on job creation in central region. As we speak, Atlantic Lithium is actually the biggest taxpayer in the central region, even though it's not started production. So again, you're able to place it in context about the importance of these investments, especially when it comes to job creation and revenue for the country.
He also adds that the fund has listed Atlantic Lithium on the local bourse after becoming the third largest shareholder in the company.
The investment goes beyond just having these equity interests or what maybe our investment guys would call the return on investments, etc. It's the impact that will have on the Ghanaian economy, especially when it comes to industrialization. We've invested in lithium. So right now, MIF is the third largest shareholder globally of Atlantic Lithium. We have invested in the global entity that is also listed in Australia and listed on the London Stock Exchange. We've as part of our investment, we've also had Atlantic Lithium listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange.
That was Chief Executive of the Minerals Income Investment Fund, Edward Cranting, ending business on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Up next is Sports with Oreku and the team.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo and we head straight into it just to get updates from the Ghana Football Association Executive Council meeting, which is surprisingly still ongoing because we know that it started at 11 a.m. this morning to finalize the decision on whether Otuado stays as head coach of the Black Stars or not. Just a brief background, last week they did meet and they couldn't come to a conclusion, and so this week was supposed to be where we receive finality, but is past 6 p.m. They've been meeting for the past 7 hours, and there's still a decision to be made. My colleague Billy Shen was at the GFA headquarters and joins us on the phone lines. Bill, what's the latest update from the meeting?
So the latest is that Otuado left the meeting about 2 hours ago after presenting his technical report on the failure of the Black Stars at the 2025 AFCON qualifiers. But as of now, the DFA Executive Council are still locked in a meeting trying to decide on whether to keep him or whether to let him go. So the 7-hour meeting still continues. It hasn't ended yet. The Executive Committee are still locked in talks, and we are still waiting to see the kind of decision they reach when the day ends.
Well, Bill, we know that Otto was present today. Have any idea on how that went for him?
Well, I mean, he was at the meeting for quite a while, trying to explain his part on why he thinks the Black Stars failed to perform at the AFCON 2025 qualifiers. But the kind of talk that came in before he even entered was that it's looking likely that they keep him. As to whether that decision has changed is what we are waiting to find out. But what has been ringing around the media and even around people of power has been that Otuado will still remain as a Black Stars coach for now. The only change will come from the Executive Council, which we are still waiting for them to make a firm decision as they are still in talks, as they are still in the meeting.
Could you also explain why you think there's been such a long hold-up? I mean, from last week up until this week, they're really struggling to make a decision. You can look at both cases, maybe why they want him to go and why they want him to stay and why they are finding it difficult to make a decision.
Yeah, so it all stems from last week when it became a split at the ESCO meeting last week. I mean, one faction is basically saying that Otuado has pretended one of Ghana's worst AFCON qualifiers. I mean, the first time Ghana lost to Angola, lost to Kumasi for the first time in 24 years, first time they failed to win a group game, first time they failed to win a home game. So the records weren't looking good for Otto. And for one faction, they believe that for Ghana to not qualify for an AFCON is basically travesty. And so they needed him to go. Another faction was making the case that financially, I mean, the Black Stars still owe CK Akono, the Black Stars still owe Chris Hughton, which they have not fully settled. And so it will just bring a more financial strain when Otuado is let go, because remember, he's still under a 3-year contract, and that is quite a long time for a coach that they believed to handle a long-term project. And so canceling it early would mean that the compensation will be huge, and that will cause a financial strain on the country. And so that is what has brought the split. I mean, one side wants him gone, the other side wants him to stay, and for different reasons altogether.
Well, thank you very much, Bill. But just before you go, from all that you've gathered from last week up until now, what do you sense the final decision will be skewed towards?
I still believe that Otuado would keep his job as the head coach of the Black Stars. I still believe he will stay. But as to whether the technical team around him will stay, that is another question altogether, because they haven't shown that they have enough experience to handle a job like this, and it has been telling with the results. I mean, sometimes it's not just the coach who makes all the decisions. He looks up to some certain members of the technical team to help him make decisions, but it hasn't gone too well. So what is looking like is Otto will maintain his job, but we could see a change in the backroom staff of Otuado. As to how big a change it will be, that will be for the ESCO to determine, and I mean for everyone else to determine after if they keep Otuado on the job. That's the only case right now, because what I've been hearing is they do not have faith in the backroom staff of Otuado. And so if he stays on, there would be a chance that there will be a change in the backroom staff for him.
Well, thank you very much, Billy Shen, for joining us this evening on Hot Editions, just to provide more clarity on the situation and the meeting at the Ghana Football Association Executive Council, which is the meeting taking place at the GFA headquarters. Has been ongoing since 11 a.m. Remember that this is the final part of the meeting, which started last week, and the GFA did mention that they will be meeting today to ensure that they draw some conclusion on what the future of Otuado is. He failed to qualify Ghana to the AFCON, and there's been some inquiries as a result, and he's been under pressure. He's had to today submit a technical report defending the AFCON qualifying campaign and convincing the GFA Executive Council members that he deserves to still stay on as the Ghana coach. As Bill mentioned, Otuado left the premises some hours ago after his presentation, but the meeting is still ongoing. And once we do have any hint on what the decision is from the GFA Executive Council members, we would let you know, especially on our social media handles at 3 Sports GH. And so you do want to stay with us. But let's move on to some other stories where Ghana Premier League heavyweights Asante Kotoko have named club legend Malik Jaber as their new technical director, replacing James Kwesi Appiah. Jaber, a 2-time CAF Champions League winner with the club, takes over the role from Appiah, who will remain involved with the club as a member of the interim management committee. The announcement was made on Wednesday in a statement by the Porcupine Warriors, and I read from the club's website, I quote, "We are thrilled to announce the appointment of the club legend and a 2-time CAF Champions winner Malik Jaber as the new technical director for the club. Coach James Kwesi Appiah, who recently held the position, will remain as a member of the club's management team. Welcome, Malik," unquote. Appiah had been in charge of the technical director position since August 2023, overseeing technical operations and player recruitment. During his tenure, he played a key role in recommending several Sudanese players for the club. Despite managing Asante Kotoko, Appiah also balances his duties as the head coach of the Sudan national team, which also qualified for the AFCON at the expense of the Black Stars just a few weeks ago. To some more stories, Barcelona and Spain's Lamine Yamal has been awarded the 2024 Golden Boy Award. Now, he picked up the award on Wednesday. I remember that this award was founded by Italian newspaper Tutto Sport and is given to European men's player under the age of 21, with journalists voting using a point system. Yamal, who's aged 17, established himself as a first-team regular for Barcelona last season, helping Spain to the Euro 2024, where he scored 1 goal and assisted 4 as he was named Young Player of the Year. Yamal becomes the youngest ever winner of the Golden Boy Award. Before we go, just some updates from the UEFA Champions League later tonight, where there's that blockbuster between Liverpool and Real Madrid, two sides that know each other very well. In the last 5 years, the two teams have met twice in the Champions League final, with Real Madrid edging both. This time they face off in the league phase, match day 5 in the Champions League at Anfield, and Liverpool would be looking to finally get their revenge on Los Blancos, but Real Madrid themselves would have to dig deep, considering the circumstances that they find themselves in the UEFA Champions League, losing to AC Milan in the last round and currently sitting 21st in the league phase. Needed a win. They would have to do without Vinicius Jr., who was the UEFA Best Player of the Year last season, Rodrigo, who was also essential to the attack, and then Eder Militao. Now, Jude Bellingham says that despite the injuries, he still believes that Real Madrid has a strong enough team to compete against Liverpool tonight.
That's what you guys might be saying inside our dressing room, inside our bus, everything. We're confident, you know. We've had injuries before and we've managed to pull through, you know. I have complete trust and complete faith in the squad that we have. All the players can make an impact, whether it's from the starting 11 or from the bench. And historically, whenever players have had to come in, they've always performed really well. So no worries about that whatsoever.
That was Real Madrid midfielder Jude Bellingham, who is in the lineup for Real Madrid later tonight as they face Liverpool. You can get updates of that game as well as the many other games that would be played tonight in the Champions League on our social media handles at 3SportsGH on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook. My name is Uri Kwampafo, and that's how we wrap up the sports segment here on Hot Edition.
Live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W 93.5 NWA and beyond here on your election command center. Some 10 days to election day, December 7. Right now, as the December 7 elections approaches, media practitioners are receiving training on how to report objectively. And here in the capital, the Electoral Commission has held the last of meetings with journalists aimed at equipping them ahead of the crucial election. On December 7, media coverage of the December elections has come under some scrutiny following plans by the Electoral Commission to restrict coverage at constituency and regional coalition centers to credible media outlets. Eric Mawena Egbeta sat through the ongoing training, which is seeking to answer questions even ahead of the special voting scheduled for December 2. Is joining us in the studio. It's good to have you, Mawena. A lot of questions for the media to answer regarding a matter of accreditation, but has there been any indication whether the Electoral Commission is amending its position on this matter of accreditation?
Rightly so, Alfred. This was an informal, not to call it informal as in it wasn't formal, but in terms of a response to these concerns and these matters, it wasn't one of the many things which was tabled for a conversation with regards to the training exercise which the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Journalists Association took media persons through. But at the end of it, it was one of the most topical things because of the reaction and the backlash that the Electoral Commission had been receiving. We had seen already the earlier statement where they, amongst many other things, said they were engaging the Ghana Journalists Association, the Ghana Independent Broadcasters Association as well. After that, Dr. Sribo Kweku, who is the Director of Training at the Electoral Commission, spoke to it, sought to take questions from journalists in relation to that as well, with response to that. And he explained the position from which the Electoral Commission came from in arriving at that decision, largely having to do with attempts to decongest the constituency coalition centers. And so in the previous elections, which I have covered, you often find that when election is conducted at the polling stations, after the voting ends and there's sorting and counting, and the winner in the constituency, both parliamentary and presidential, is dealt with and determined, and the notice of poll and then declaration form, which is known as a pink sheet, is signed by all parties. They carry the pink sheet, the ballot boxes, along with the ballot papers which were thumbprinted on, into pickup vehicles and head straight towards
the constituency.
The constituency coalition center, along with all the 5 other Electoral Commission officials who were present at the polling station. The Electoral Commission says going forward, all that will not be necessary. Once everything is done at the polling station, the presiding officer, who is a CEO at that polling station, after ensuring that all necessary documentations has been done, will proceed with just the ballot, the pink sheet, to the coalition center. The remainder of the ballot boxes and then the ballot papers which have been thumbprinted are headed straight to the Electoral Commission's district office, unless there's a challenge of of results, which will mean that they will take the ballot papers there. Otherwise, if it's polling station Fantiakwa Primary School 1A and B, and B goes through, everything is smooth, there's no need for Fantiakwa Primary School 1B to carry their ballot boxes and along with the 5 or the 4 other personnel to follow the presiding officer to the coalition center. There's no need for that. Just come with the presiding officer, because all the parties would have signed to the document anyways. They go, they present it to the returning officer in the constituency, who will take the pink sheets, and then there are party reps there who will verify and all of that, and then they proceed with computation to decongest the areas, because of the history of what happened in 2020, where there was chaos in some parts and all of that. And so that's the plan, which according to them informed also the decision to, amongst many other things, want to have certain number of media houses take care of the coalition. He also made the argument that if they leave it to the discretion of the media, then certain constituencies will enjoy a lot more media scrutiny as compared to others. And so their plan is to spread it out and then to allow for every constituency to be taken care of in terms of media presence and ensure accountability amongst many other things. But he stressed that it hasn't been something which journalists have been pleased with, and admitted that they didn't consult before taking the decision because they thought it was in the best interest of everybody in decongestion. But conversations have started already in dealing with this. They are in negotiations or conversations with the GJ and then Giba. Also, the GJ president as well, informally, sought to address that as well. Will not go directly, says that there will be an official statement. But we get the indication that they have started the conversations, and there's a certain level of assurance that everybody will be allowed, or every media house will be allowed access to the coalition centers from every constituency, and possibly the regional coalition centers as well.
Very important detail there, Moana. And what more did you get at this training, maybe quickly, before we go?
So that's one of the things which I've been sharing, which is the reforms which we're going to see, which will mean that a lot of the coalition centers in the constituencies will be decongested. Also, in terms of expectations with regards the special voting which comes off on Monday as well. They've sought to clarify a number of things. We also got to understand that a lot more political parties are actually readying themselves to get accreditation from the Electoral Commission. Up to 25, we got the indication 25 more political parties could be in the country's books outside of what we have already, and the Electoral Commission is going through the process. But it was basically answering questions, because we will also be seeking to educate people and also, as much as possible, reduce the tensions in the country. And so it's important that journalists get that understanding to be able to carry out and convey the serious matters as they come to during election day.
Eric Maiwana-Gbeta, thank you. Thank you so much. And that's Eric Maiwana-Gbeta there, one of the election commanders here on your election command center now. And Eric, let's get into the details of it, what we have with Dr. Mahmoud Bamia and the issues of these electric buses.
Yes, Alfred, we know that since last week and even the beginning of this week, the NPP government has been commissioning a lot of projects, from the airports, runabouts, to a lot of other projects. And so today, the Vice President also commissioned the first batch of electric buses to augment the existing transport operation in the country. Dr. Bawumia says the electric buses are expected to reduce the payment of transport fares by 40 to 50%. We can listen to him.
The acquisition of these electric buses is not just about revamping the operations of Metro Mass Transit Limited and is signaling to other agencies to follow suit, but also to position them to play a leading role in the drive to net zero emission transport future, and a future with low cost of transportation. When you think about it, anytime fuel prices internationally go up, then you see it translating immediately into domestic increase in fuel prices, then into increase in transportation fares according to the existing formula. I was thinking very deeply about this and how we can cushion the Ghanaian public from these external influences. But I came to the conclusion that going towards electric vehicles in public transport was the surest way to protect ourselves from the external influences of the rise in diesel and other petroleum prices that affect the cost of transportation in Ghana.
Dr. Bawumia also explained that the Tap and Go initiative that will be adopted will be replicated in the railway sector.
The Tap and Go system will help local drivers conduct their transactions digitally, building their credit to obtain new vehicles on favorable credit terms. This is why it is crucial for us to intensify our digitalization efforts, providing lending comfort to all potential investors through our digitalized operations. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, while today's event is cause for celebration, it is also a reminder that our journey is far from over. The commissioning of these buses is the beginning of a broader strategy to modernize and decarbonize the transport sector. I envision a future where electric vehicles are the standard, with modern technology playing a key part in.
And while the Managing Director of Metro Mass Transit, Albert Boahin, has also been speaking, and according to him, the relevance of these buses cannot be understated in Ghana's transportation sector.
The deployment of these buses is aimed at introducing energy-efficient buses into MMT's operations, not only as a means of revamping the company's mass transit services, but also to help MMT play a leading role in the transition to the use of electric vehicles in support of the zero-emission agenda enshrined in the National Electric Policy. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, we also believe that deployment of electric buses is a transformative move that will have far-reaching economic benefit for the people of Ghana, as well as these buses will help reduce the cost of operation and lowering fuel expenses. We have found that while fossil fuel costs account for as much as 55% of our revenue from intracity operations, the energy cost of these new electric buses will constitute just 15% of the revenue. This represents a remarkable 40% savings in operational costs, allowing us to reinvest in expanding and enhancing our services.
Managing Director of Metro Mass Transit, Albert Boahin there, Alfred.
Well, at least that's the end of Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. It's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. Remember to join me and the team at 10 p.m. on TV3 and also on 3FM 92.7 for Ghana Tonight.